testing testing OK 好各位同事我
Members, I now call to order the meeting of the panel on constitutional affairs. Now I will read out something for your information. We are going to elect the chairman according to ROP 77(6). If you are the chairman or vice chairman of a government advisory body, the jurisdiction of which is related to the business of this panel, you cannot be the chairman or vice chairman of this panel. And according to ROP 77(7), every member should not be the chairman or vice chairman of more than one panel. There are a few panels, including security, education, and transport. The chairman of which have not been elected. Some members remain as nominees. Amidst such uncertainty, we will accept nominations for chairman or vice chairman of this panel so that we can implement or execute ROP 77(6) and (7). Well, there is no choice. We have to live with such uncertainty. Now we should accept nominations. Sorry, please, wait. We need the oral nomination to be done by one member, and for it to be seconded by another, and for the candidate nominated accepting the nomination orally so that it is a valid nomination. Any nominations? Mr. Leung Yiu-chung, are you going to make a nomination or do you have a point of order? I have a point of order. Yes, please. Just now you chaired the other panel meeting and a problem remains unsolved. 6 members are the subject of decisions to be made, whether they can enter the meeting room, whether they can take part in the discussion and take part in the vote. I think a decision has not been made by you. Will you now make that decision?
好嗱，咁樣嘅剛才
I need not refer to the previous meeting. I have just received a paper issued by the President, Mr. Andrew Leung, with regard to whether the vote taken on the 12th of October by 6 members was valid or not. In para 12 of this paper, 5 members have been ruled to have invalid votes. They are Ms. Lau Siu-lai, Mr. Wong Ting-kwong, Mr. Sixtus Leung, Ms. Yau Wai-ching, and also Dr. Yiu Chung-yim. Mr. Leung Yiu-chung is asking me what will happen to these 5 members. But first of all, we have to check whether these 5 members are members of the CA panel. If they are, what rights do they have? Can they speak? Can they enter the room? Can they be given a ballot paper to elect the chairman? I understand that to be the point of order raised by Mr. Leung Yiu-chung. Just now I had a few minutes to converse with the Secretariat. And we talked about the ruling I made in the transport panel just now. Now, we are not in the transport panel, we are in the CA panel. I can tell you that my ruling will be different from mine at the transport panel. I reviewed my own decision. I learned about the rules quoted by the Secretariat and also previous rulings. I am now of the view that once the President has made a written ruling on those 5 members, I have no authority not to accept the ruling, which will become effective right away. Professor Yu, Ms. Yao, Mr. Leung, Mr. Wong, and Ms. Lau, they can be elected, but they cannot come into the room and vote. This is my ruling for the CAP. This ruling is not the same as the one I made at the transport panel. I admit that just now at the transport panel, I did not give this thorough thinking. Let me add why I have this kind of thinking. The Secretariat told us that in the case of CSAs, committee stage amendments on bills, the President would also make rulings in writing, and those rulings are not made or announced in council meetings. I have also read the ROP. The President's ruling is not confined to a certain mode. It can be made orally or in a written form, or it can be announced in a council meeting. There is no stipulation about that. And looking at convention, the President of the Legislative Council did make rulings in different ways, and we would arrange council business on the basis of those rulings, including oral questions, also his ruling on urgent questions. If he rules against urgent questions, then those questions will not appear. And if he should rule that a certain item should be deleted from the order paper, then that item is deleted. And these are valid rulings even if they are not made in council meetings. I have considered these factors. And if I insist that only rulings made in council meetings are valid, then procedures will be lengthened and many more meetings will have to be held, and this may not be beneficial to the conduct of council meetings. Well, that is not my only consideration, but reading all these rules, it seems I made the wrong ruling at the transport panel. And now when I chair the panel on constitutional affairs, I now rule that these 5 members cannot vote. Any other questions? Dr. K.K. Kwok. Chairman, I respect what you said, but you might have rushed into that decision. It was a short time. It took us just 2 minutes walking from the other room. If you say you also had some grounds making your ruling at the transport panel, I would ask you to give this more time and thought, because if the dispute goes on, maybe we cannot have any election at this meeting either. To be fair, give yourself some more time. No, I have no choice. At this point in time, well, I can accede to your request and rethink the situation. You said it was just a short while. Well, how long did it take for you to walk from the other room to this one? Well, I have read the information carefully. Well, at that time just now, I only relied on my memory, and I thought that the President could only make rulings at council meetings. And I based that on my memory. It was a feeling. But the Secretariat showed me information and precedents, and I think what I am saying is quite well-based. I would tell Dr. K.K. Kwok that I would chair the CAP on that basis. If the rights of some members are harmed, it remains my responsibility. I will not, however, postpone this meeting to give us or myself more time to think about this. Dr. Kwok, we have an hour or so for lunch. I promise you I will give this more thought. Chairman, you mentioned the convention and the papers. Can you show us those? I'll try to see whether that can be done, so we know exactly how you arrived at your present ruling and also what information has been supplied to you by the Secretariat. Any nominations? A point of order, Mr. Jeremy Tam. A short one, please, Chairman. We have the latest rulings that certain members will not be allowed to come into the room for the rest of the day. What about the quorum? From what I understand, the names are still included in the list of members. But if they cannot come into the meeting, then how do you count the quorum? Well, we have a much greater presence than the quorum. What about the afternoon? I think I'm not going to respond to that now. We are having a meeting of the CAP. Please give me more time. During lunch, I will give some thought to your words, because I still have to chair the meetings in the afternoon. I promise you, I will give this detailed thought. Now we have a quorum. Ms. Claudia Mo, a point of order? Yes, please. I'd like to ask again. At the start of the meeting, you said twice that there is an uncertainty. Well, I think we were undecided. But then after reading the papers sent by you by the Secretariat, you changed your stance. No, Ms. Mo, I talked about certain uncertainty because of the nominees.
喺第二個委員會咧，係仲係做緊候選人。
Some members might still be candidates at another panel, so at this moment they have not won. So if we elect them for chairman or deputy chairman, then they would lose the right to be nominated at other panels. So this is the uncertainty I was talking about. If you want to nominate a member, for example, you want to nominate James To, you have to ask him which panel he prefers. That's what I meant. Or else he might not have accepted your nomination, or he might blame you later. That's what I meant. We are at the situation we are at now. If we force it through, would that be too casual? I do not agree. I think we need to agree. We need to continue with our meeting. That's my responsibility. Any nominations? Point of order, Mr. Lei Yucheng. When you address members' questions, you said you promised to rethink your decision during lunch. The decision you made just now is very different from the one you made at another panel meeting. In the next meeting, I hope after considering the issue, you would make the same decision, or else it would be very hard for us to accommodate your changing views. I will re-examine my decision, but the result might be different. That way, it's very hard for us to come to terms. You said you read a lot of information before arriving at your decision. So, upon further re-examination, are you going to come up with a different decision? The other members would find it hard to come to terms. Mr. Leung, I arrived at different decision at the transport panel and this panel, and for the inconvenience, I would like to apologize. But I will proceed with the procedures for electing the chairman for the CA panel. Point of order, Chairman. I have dealt with that point. If you have further questions, I would give you the chance to do so. Ms. Starry Lee, Mr. Martin Liao, any seconders? Ms. Abramchak. Mr. Martin Liao. I accept the nomination. All right, this is an effective nomination. Any other nominations? Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. I nominate Ms. Lau Siu Lai. Any seconders? Mr. Ray Chan. Please hold on. Mr. Ray Chan seconds the nomination. since Ms. Lau Siu Lai cannot attend this meeting, can you, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, can you confirm orally that she would accept the nomination? Can you confirm? I can ascertain that she accepts the nomination. All right. Yes. Again, this is an effective nomination. Any further nominations, Mr. Jeremy Tam, Ms. Tanya Chen? Any seconders? Dr. Hina Wong, Ms. Tanya Chen, do you accept the nomination? Yes. So this is the third effective nomination. Any further nominations, Mr. Ray Chen, Mr. Leung Chong-hang? Any seconders? Any seconders, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong?
我問緊一個議員可唔可以提名或者和議多？
Can the same member nominate or second more than one other member? I'd like to make that clear first.
即係一個議員可以係嘛？即係可以提名或者和議多嘅一個議員。咁即係如果佢被提名咗有效咧，佢就不能去和議人。OK， 得，明白，搞清楚啦。
All right, so everything's clear. Mr. Ray Chen seconds the nomination. Which candidate are you referring to? I nominate Mr. Leung Chong-hang. Yes, that's possible. Any seconders, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong? Please hold on. Mr. Ray Chan nominates Mr. Leung Chong-hang. Can you confirm that he accepts the nomination? Yes, confirmed. Again, this is an effective nomination. Point of order, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Can I nominate more than one member? I think it's possible. Is there any prohibitions? I nominate Mr. Chen Han-pen. Any seconders? No. I nominate Mr. Horace Chung. Any seconders? No. I nominate Dr. Anne Chang. Any seconders? No. I nominate Mr. Gary Chan. Any seconders? I'd like to add something. Even though under the rules of procedure and House rules, more than one member can be nominated by the same member, and the nominee has to preside over the counting. So please consider that, and that it would be rather chaotic. So from our past practice, each member can only nominate one member. I think this is not a problem. If there are several nominees, one of the nominees can also send a seconder to preside over the counting. I think the spirit is to ensure fairness, and the idea is not to prohibit multiple nominations by the same member. Anyhow, I have heard your views. Any further nominations? Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Mr. Nathan Law, you can go first. Chairman. according to Appendix 4 of the House Rules on the election of chairman and deputy chairman of panels, I orally nominate Ms. Regina Yip as chairman of the Constitutional Affairs panel, and I invite seconders, and hopefully Ms. Regina Yip would accept my nomination. Mr. Nathan Law nominates Ms. Regina Yip. Any seconders? Mr. Ray Chen, do you second the nomination? No. Any seconders? Ms. Regina Yip has been nominated. Any seconders? All right, any further nominations? Mr. Lam Kwok Hong. I could not recognize Mr. Lau Kok Fan. I now nominate Mr. Lau Kok Fan of DAB. First, I have to see if there are any seconders. Any seconders? Mr. Nathan Law. Mr. Lau Kok Fan, do you accept the nomination? I'm already with another panel. I cannot share multiple panels.
對唔住啊，因為我啱啱嗰個委員會咧，我食為嗰個副主席，我係嗰個時間我上咗。
In the election of the vice chairman for the FEHP, I was in the washroom, so I didn't know you were you were elected deputy chairman. So this nomination is not valid. It's my wrong. I think Ms. Dari Lee can do a good job as well. I nominate Ms. Dari Lee as chairman of the panel on constitutional affairs. You nominate Ms. Dari Lee. Any seconders? Mr. Nathan Law. Ms. Dari Lee, do you accept the nomination? I'd like to thank his nomination. I do not accept it, but I have a point of order. So I would deem the nomination invalid. Point of order. Would the Secretariat or Chairman notice the acts of certain members of abusing their power and making multiple nominations? And Ms. Lazio Lai and Mr. Leung Chun Hang had not finished their oaths, and you accepted their nominations. I do not agree with your decision. You cited past practice, but according to Rule 1 of the ROP, they cannot take part in any LegCo meetings or voting. If they are not allowed to take part in meetings and voting, they should not be nominated. So I'd like to go on record with that. I won't go into the detail for the second point. I have explained them in the past. For the first point, you feel that there's an abuse of power by certain members on the right of nomination. I accepted multiple nominations by Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Was that until I announced that the time for nomination has lapsed, I have to accept nominations. I cannot judge whether that is an abuse. Nomination or making a nomination is a right. In some cases, the nominations are seconded, so according to the rules, I can only ask the member being nominated to see if they accept it. I cannot judge the motivations of certain members, such as Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. I cannot judge whether those nominations are sincere or not. As long as the nominations depend on whether they are seconded. So I cannot bar any nominations if I do so, even even after the election, the results might be deemed invalid. That's my concern. Time is limited and lunch is coming up. if we can finish the nominations and voting within around 10 minutes, I can extend the meeting by around 10 minutes. The speaker is not coming through. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, do you want to make a nomination? I haven't announced an extension. That's just my view. I nominate Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Any seconders? Mr. Nathan Law. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, do you accept the nomination? No. So the nomination is invalid. Mr. Wong Ting-kwong. Sorry, Mr. Wong Kwok-in.
Are you making a nomination? I'd like to say something. You have to speak on a point of order. What I'm going to say is directly related to the election. No, I'm very different from Mr. Wong Ting-kwong. Sorry about my slip of tongue. I am aware that in the last meeting you ruled that members can make multiple nominations. And Chairman, you do allow certain members to make multiple nominations. But if they go back to a nomination already made, Professor Yu Chung-yim was mentioned, and then he was mentioned again. If this goes on, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong is now making multiple nominations. Then the process will be endless. No, he was nominating different members, and some of the nominations were even seconded. If he nominates you, Mr. Wong Kwok-in, if you don't accept, but if he nominates you again, I can cancel that nomination right away. No, in the last meeting you said a member can be nominated again. So what you are saying is different. No, when Professor Yu Chung-yim was nominated, Dr. Yu Chung-yim did not confirm that he accepts nomination. But if there is acceptance orally, then I cannot prevent Professor Yu Chung-yim to be nominated. And in fact, in 2 other nominations, the nominees accepted nomination. Well, I'm not challenging you, but I think this is not proper. As the chairman, you have the responsibility to smoothly conduct the meeting. I'm not challenging you, but I'm stating my view here. Look, it's 13:02 already, and I believe even if I extend the meeting by a few minutes, we'll not be able to complete the election of the chairman today. I have no choice but end the meeting. For now, we have 4 members who have been validly nominated. When this meeting is continued, then we'll say the procedure for nomination for chairman has not been completed. We'll continue from there. Thank you.